Hope everybody having a great start of the year. We're gonna get started here at about 8:40. We're gonna get started with our training. So we're gonna do our introductions real quick and then go from there. So if you want to go first, Sharanda, and then Sharanda can turn it over to John, and then you know how we do it, regular old set up.
Okay.
We start on the training. And hello everybody on YouTube as well. I always forget to say that when we get started. So we got YouTubers on here as well, of course, obviously looking at us live on YouTube. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So Sharanda Ivy.
Sharanda Ivy here out of Byron, Georgia. Been with Legal Shield now. This is our 10th year. In June, we'll be here for 10 years. 50K ring earners, CDLP certification trainer. Been recognized by the company as Field Trainer of the Year for 2 years, 2019 and 2021. We've earned the production award, 1,000 app award from the company, creep it up on 2,000. And focus on business solutions and cross-selling here in this space. And so just looking to continue to work with associates, helping them reach their goals and continue to just grow myself here in this space as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, John. Alexa.
All right, good evening, everybody. I haven't seen you for a while, and the Mark Twain quote was, "The rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. I'm still alive and well." This is the time of year in the CDLP business that companies do all their safety meetings, because this is all time of year, and that's what I've been doing the last month. I was working late, and I've been in Legal Shield, prepaid legal. It's my 15th year, certified field trainer for the West Coast. Also recognized as a field trainer of the year during last convention, and I've been working with a lot of associates in my early morning hours, helping.
John, you muted.
Oh, there we go. That was
I'm sorry about that. I did something on my side. I apologize, brother.
Okay. Well, I was done, I think. I don't want to take up.
You done?
Space. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Robert Dunbar here, out of the Jacksonville, Florida area, originally from Buffalo, New York, and trained with Legal Shield for 13 years. Well, I think it's 14 now. I'm starting to lose track. But I believe it's 14 in February. I've been training for about 8 years with Legal Shield, and we have trained in different areas of Legal Shield. So everything from networking to just general business solutions to CDLP. So we are really here to help everybody move forward. I like to focus myself on sales motivation, right? Because we know that you're going to hear a lot from John about research, and a lot from Sharanda about implementing a plan, and a lot from all of us about what Legal Shield membership can do to help your customers. But if you don't know how to sell, then you won't be able to sell it. So hopefully we can help you guys get a little bit better at selling on this Monday night call. And anybody who is new tonight, who went to the first certification training last Saturday with Sharanda Ivy and Alan Roman, congratulations for that, if you're with us. So we're glad to have you. And for everybody who did a retake this past Saturday, congratulations for getting refreshed in the new year with the training. So I am a 100K ring earner, got 250K ring earners on my team, and we're just here to kind of help you guys build in the CDLP space. So that is where we're at. So last week, we asked you all about some topics. So we chose a couple, and we're going to keep choosing more topics from that list of training. So every week, while you guys are on here, if you come up with some different things, because we're tallying these in the chat, because we're pulling the chat later on. So if you've got some topics that you would like to be trained on when it comes to CDL, right? So again, no networking topics, no prospecting, people to recruit. I know network marketing is great, but that's not what we're doing here on Monday nights. So make sure in the chat that you're putting things that have to do with opening groups, making calls, get better at CDL, cross-selling, selling that small business plan, all those things. Throw what you would like to be trained on in 2023 when it comes to CDLP in the chat. And then every week we go through that chat and we're looking at what topics you guys said, how often that same topic came up, so we'll know what to train on first versus last, what's more important to you all. So that's what we're going to be doing here in the first part of the year to make sure we're giving you guys the training that you want. And if you guys like that idea, just go ahead and throw one in the chat so that we know that you guys are with us on that process, because this is really about helping you guys all here move forward in y'all's journey in offering the CDL plan here with Legal Shield, or PPLSI, I should say. So let's touch on, let me see, some of the most common topics we heard was learning to close, following up quicker, and making more calls. I think closing is a bigger topic, so we're going to touch on that, not right now. And I definitely want to touch on closing before we talk about research and making calls, because it's going to kind of be out of order. But closing, learning to close, is going to be a major topic that we're going to talk about, because about 8 people put that in the chat. Learning to close. And we know that when it comes to sales, that's a skill that we all want to make sure that we have. So we can definitely appreciate that. I think following up quicker and making more calls is definitely something that we can talk about in the beginning, along with research, which was another topic. I also would tell you that anybody who was saying they want to know more about research, I think I would say, and the other trainers can chime in and let us know as well, I believe that the 3rd annual Prospecting Legal Shield training that we have, the video that we have, that has done the best job so far on how to do proper research. And then if you have any specific research questions, of course, when John is on with us, John does a lot of research as well. So you can ask those questions when John is on as well, and he can answer you some direct questions on some research that he does, some different things that he's doing with that. We can all, of course, answer research questions, but I know a lot of times on the training, he talks about how to find trucking companies without walking out your front door. So that might be helpful to you. So if you see John on the call, like you do tonight, just make sure you pose that question sometimes, throw it in the chat, and see if John can give you some feedback on some things he's doing. He's always changing up his little system there and getting more trucking companies. And he just told me he's real busy. So that means there's some business out there. So y'all might want to get to it. So let's talk a little bit about following up quicker and making more calls. I know we've all had that scenario as trainers. I don't want to put you out there, Sharon, first, but I just like to do ladies first. So I'm gonna turn it over to you on that. And one of the this question came in 6 times. Following up on your prospects faster and making more dials. How can you make more dials? So that's a question that came up. So if you want to touch on that.
So what I learned is I'm still following up, learning to follow up quicker. So sometimes things get they fall through the cracks for whatever reason. I'm always trying to make my systems better. So I think following up, you really need a good system to follow up. I'm really trying to work in my CRM. I'm a person, when I'm making dials, I use paper and I try to use my CRM. And sometimes when you making a lot of dials, I'll talk me. When I'm making the dials, I might find myself, if I'm having a longer conversation, I'm taking notes, I might not get back to my CRM. So of course, paper doesn't have a clock or, a reminder. And so that's where I find that I miss out on follow-up. So I use now, like I say, I'm really trying to work in my CRM, but I'll just go ahead and take the time and put it in my my clock, my alarm on my phone, because even if I don't make it to my CRM, I still need that reminder. And so that has, really began to help me, because like I say, sometimes I can lose that follow-up process will I'll start to, not do it as often. And I've had times where, I talked to associates and they didn't follow up, or when they did, they go follow up, somebody else had wrote the business. So that, that can be, hurtful as well. So you want to figure out your systems. I think it's about systems more so. And also like if I have a DM appointment, I normally ask before I hang up. And I learned this too with follow-ups, because sometimes follow-ups can start to make you feel bad, because if they don't pick up, then you think, oh my God, they're not picking up, they're not interested or whatever. But a couple things that I start to, what I tell myself, and then this is what I share with other associates in this industry, especially if we're focusing, it could be a big company too, though. Don't get me wrong. It could be a big company too, but definitely the smaller companies, the drivers are really busy because they're doing a lot of things. They're wearing a lot of hats. So when it comes to a decision maker, if I'm talking to a decision maker and, I'm trying to set that next appointment, that follow-up appointment, I go ahead and ask, okay, just say if they say, please send me something. I was like, okay, well, we can go ahead and get something out to you. And I'll say, well, when is a good time for us to follow up? Or when is it a good time for me to follow up? And if they say, in a couple of days, the day being Monday, I'll say, is Wednesday good for you, or, Thursday? And I try to lock in a time. Is this a good time that, on that day, that we can speak? Is this a good time for you as well? And I'll say, well, thank you. We'll follow up, say Wednesday or Thursday, whatever they say, and the time they say. And when they don't pick up when we call, it's like, just say, hey, this is, Sharanda. I was just giving you a call back. Today is Thursday at 2 p.m. This is the time you said was good for you. I hope everything is okay, or I'll follow up shortly, or however. And I just put them back into play. I know working with associates, they'll try to call them back in a few minutes, but for me, asking for that specific time takes that feeling of that I'm bothering them or I'm calling too much. So that's how I am with follow-ups, Dunbar. And I do know too, when your pipeline isn't full and you're constantly following up on people, you can become like a stalker, because you got to think that, we got call ID now. And a lot of people can see you calling. So you want to think about that, especially those people who will call and don't, you don't leave a message, just keep dialing. That could not look good, so you got to think about that. So, a lot of people ask me, well, when I'm following up, should I leave a message? Absolutely. Leave a message. And like I say, because they may be watching you call them 50 times in an hour and you're thinking, wow, they just won't pick up, and they thinking on the other end, this person is obsessed, they are harassing me. So don't feel like that. Don't become a stalker or a harasser. And maybe, but definitely figure out a system, I think, is key.
Good stuff. Good stuff. John?
All right. Well, as far as follow-up, that seems to be a skill everybody has to learn. But my sales training over the years has been, if you're going to follow up, don't follow up any longer than 2 days. If it depends on the conversation goes too. If they're really interested in what you have to tell them, you might follow up sooner. But I'm a little bit different than Sharanda with that. I won't ask permission. I will let them know when I'll follow up. Said, I want to follow up with you this afternoon, or I will follow up with you in 2 days at this time. Because if you ask them for permission, that gives them, in my opinion, that gives them a reason to say, well, I'll call you back. And we all know what that means. They're not going to call you back. All right. Okay. And as far as what to send, if you're going to send them an email, there's a skill in that too. That you don't want to send an email right away if it's the middle of the day, if it's the middle of their business day, or you don't want to send it late in the afternoon when it's going to get buried by their email. So when you send an email to someone for following up, try and do it like right when they walk in the office in the morning. That's right. That's why it's right on the top of their email list, or right before they go to lunch. That's a good time because they'll check their emails usually before they go to lunch. And because you want to be noticed, because otherwise your emails will get buried. I mean, how many emails do we all get that we just blow by just because it's not convenient for us? But if it's right at the top with an interesting topic, that's the key also too. You have to put something in the subject line that is wants them to open it, and don't say legal shields. Say CSA scores, or DOT audits, and then something that'll get them to open it up. And then I hear, I've never been on the blitz training, but I hear stories about people making 80, 90 calls in 2 hours. To me, that's, my opinion, that's not time well spent. They're not having meaningful conversations with people. And people that have trained with me on the phone on this call, we usually make about 10 calls in an hour, because we have some conversations when we're talking to people. So don't be fooled in making a lot of calls. Just make good calls. Have a conversation. It's not how many calls you can make. It's the quality of the calls. And also do time blocking, because you can get burned out. It's brutal. Doing it on the phone, you get a lot of hangups, a lot of no answers. A lot of people will say, "Well, call me later," and then they won't answer the phone. My answer to that is, I got 2 phones. So I don't answer my one phone, I'll call back on my other phone. And sometimes if they're going to ghost you, and there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. You're just saying, "Well, you asked me to call you back," and then, like I said, don't ask for permission, and then always get the next action step when you're talking to somebody. Get the follow-up step. When you have a conversation, and like I said, when you call them, you tell them when you're going to call back, and then after you call them, you're going to say, I'm going to send you this information," and then always get the next step in the process, because it's not always the first time you talk to them they're going to buy what you're selling. It might take a few steps, but always get the next action step. Okay.
Absolutely. So one of the key things for me when it comes to following up and making more calls is system. So I heard that mentioned. To me, and anybody that you guys are on anything I'm doing, that's always key for me, a system. The way to upgrade or increase anything is to put it in a system that you can keep a workflow. So if you are writing down your information on sheets of paper while you're making phone calls, that's not a system. And I say get your system in place first, because getting that organized will make making calls easier. It'll make it more convenient. You can make more phone calls, and you can do it in a more comfortable headspace. Because this is all, we all know that's mindset. Put a 2 in the chat if we know that this is all mindset. Making phone calls, closing deals, this is all a mental thing. It's all a mental game at the end of the day. That's all sales is mindset. And how you go into it is as offset as this may seem. Going into a clean office with a clear head and having a system that you can use helps you make more efficient phone calls. So for me, system is key. All of the willpower to hear people say no and having to call workout partner and all of those things are all in addition to, but having that system in place is key. And there's no reason nobody shouldn't have a system, because they have inexpensive CRMs, they have free CRMs. And then I've showed you all on this particular call how to use your Google Calendar as a CRM on more than one occasion. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to make calls and document this stuff electronically through Google Calendar or one of the other CRMs that you can get your hands on to do that. I think if you want to make a sufficient amount of calls in this day and time, just write the stuff down in a notepad. I think that's a slower process, and I think that you're going to burn out doing that. That's just my opinion on that. I think you need to have an efficient system so that you can make efficient phone calls and keep track of who you're calling so you'll know who to call back, when to call back, and how to prioritize your callbacks. Because are you just randomly calling through your list again, or do you actually know the people that you're calling back are you're more likely to close so that you can increase your closing rate? How are you judging when to call back? Are you just randomly calling people back so you can say you made calls, right? Kind of leaning towards what John said. When I see people talking about they made 80 or 90 calls in 2 hours, I mean, I'm not saying that that's not possible because people got burner phones and all kinds of stuff that they can do that with. So it's not that that's impossible to do that. And calling through the numbers does work. But what I want you all to do is call based on time blocks and don't compare the amount of calls you're making to anybody else. If you try to make 90 minutes in calls and it's just too overwhelming, then cut it down to an hour. If you know that you can't get through 90 calls without pulling your hair out, or you feel like if you make 90 calls on Monday, you can't do it tomorrow, if there's too much reluctance to make those calls because you're thinking, man, 90 minutes of calls, that's a lot of calls, and then that prevents you from making the calls, that means you need to come down on the amount of time that you're making those calls. Because if you can call for 60 minutes, 3 days a week, versus saying I'm gonna call for 90 minutes and then never making a call because you're too overwhelmed, then how do you win? If you don't ever make the calls because you got this big goal to make all these calls in this amount of time that you're not gonna make. So y'all heard me mention this before. Don't count calls. I know y'all heard me say before, 30 calls a day, 50 calls a day. Well, guess what? Like anything else, I'm growing just like y'all growing. And I've learned over the last maybe year or so that counting calls is not the best way to do it. It's better to just block a specific amount of time and make whatever calls you can make in that amount of time. Is that fair? Right? Put a 3 in the chat if that makes sense. That way you've got a little bit more control and you can say, okay, this is not about me getting to 50 calls or getting to 30 calls. It's about me saying I'm going to call for 60 minutes. I'm going to call for 30 minutes. Whatever you can manage to call and not, and not have an anxiety attack. I would say do that when it comes to making more calls. As far as following up, prioritize your people. Whatever CRM you're using, wherever you're documenting who you're calling, if they're a hot prospect, put that on there. Number them. Important, high priority. Do a number system, do an alphabet system, get creative. But know who you should call back more often than not. Don't leave it up to your mind, right? So put a 4 in the chat if you said, oh, I'm not gonna put that down because I'll remember this person. And then when you go to make calls 2 or 3 days later, you don't remember what you said you was gonna remember. Especially when you get some of our age. I'm 47. I always tell myself I'm gonna remember stuff. It don't ever happen. Oh, I'll write that down, and I'll write that down as soon as I finish this. It could be 7, 8 minutes later, and I'll be saying, what did I just say I was gonna write down? I forget that fast. So put something to remind you of the priority of that person that you're looking to call by either use a number system or a letter system, and do that just to make sure that you see when you're looking at your list, oh, this person's a 4. This is a hot person, hot topic. Hot prospect, let me call this person back. Because they seem like they on the fence. Just so you can have a better idea of who you calling, right? And then lastly, I'll say your motivation. What's motivating you to make these calls? Because all of this we're saying right now, there's no motivation. I think I did a training last week and I spoke about seeing if you can get the motivation to come from your heart, not your head. I know that some motivation is going to come from your head because we're making calls, we're in business, and our psyche is, let's hit those phone calls. But let me give you an example. Anybody in here with a job, put a 5 in the chat if you got a 9 to 5 somewhere, you had one in the last few years, right? Guess what? Even if you don't like your job, guess why you're motivated? Pain versus pleasure. Either the pain of getting evicted, losing your house, losing your car, not being able to pay your bills, your cell phone getting shut off, that's your pain. And the pleasure is you want that check every 2 weeks, or however often you get paid. So you're doing it for the money, so it's coming from here. You're motivated, even if you went to college to get that degree, and now you no longer want to work in that field, you still do it because you know if you stop working, then you can't do all the other things you like to do when you're not working. Yes and yes? But how about it coming from your heart because you want to be doing it? What can you wrap your head around to make you motivated to call these drivers because you want to help them? You're motivated to get this company on the phone because you can help this company better their score. You can help this company keep their insurance rates low. You can help this company stay on board because they got drivers that's getting in trouble and that this product can help that company. Try to find out how you can motivate yourself, right? Emotionally, like from your heart to make these cell phone calls because it's going to push you to do it a little bit more if you can find some motivation. It can't just be Performance Club. It can't just be executive director or senior director, whatever you run it for. And it certainly just can't be because your upline is telling you to. There's too many of us letting the outside source motivate us. And the motivation needs to come from us. So I'll say it like I said it last week. And if I hurt your feelings, it's probably because I should. If somebody else needs to motivate you to make calls, then you probably shouldn't be making calls. You might need to find something else to do because it shouldn't take somebody else to motivate you to run your business. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Find the motivation or find something else to do so that you can get up excited about doing it. You should be excited. Even if you're nervous about the call, you should be excited. Is that fair? Right? Put a 6 in the chat. Right? When I go on stage, I'm nervous to go on stage, but I'm excited. So you can be nervous and excited at the same time. So if you just having anxiety attacks and depressed and nervous and scared and reluctant, then you probably shouldn't be making phone calls if it's that bad. You're making calls to the wrong kind of prospects if that's the way you do. So remember the mindset, remember the emotion, remember the motivation. When it comes to making these calls, guys, you got to be ready to go. You got to want to do this. You got to want the result of doing this. That's part of you making calls. That's part of you doing this thing, right? You got involved in a business that you own as an independent associate because you wanted to be an independent business owner. So if that's what you're looking to do, then how can you not be excited about the primary thing you need to do to grow, which is prospect and make phone calls? So get you a system so you get that out of your mind. How am I going to make my calls? How am I going to keep track? Create you a system to know who to call first, how to prioritize those calls, and find you some motivations to get your butt in gear. You got to. Make sense? All right, good stuff. So Sharon, John, anything else on that topic?
No, but I write because that's just something I've always done, but I do have a digital system too. But sometimes I get busy. So like I said, I use my alarm system now. It's whatever works for you, you really have to, I think Mike Ritchie's, like John just said, I think Mike Ritchie's, Mike did a training on something, I don't know, it was a few months ago, maybe it was in September. And I switched up that, John was saying no more than 2 days, because I think he said after 2 weeks, if you haven't follow up with somebody, if you put it 2 weeks off, you starting the whole process over again. It's not a follow-up anymore. You starting the sale process over again if you wait that long. So you have to think about that too. I think John said 2 days, which is good. And if they're a hot prospect, really, they'll want to continue to talk to you. But yeah, just that stuck with me though. If it's after 2 weeks and you haven't talked to that person, it's like you got to start that whole thing over again, and that can be hard. That really can. So those are some good tips.
And somebody put on YouTube as well, like when you guys were talking about following, like sending emails behind calling companies and those kind of things. Somebody was asking if you have the number for the person, your prospect, your decision maker, or the safety manager, whoever it is you're communicating with, if you have their phone number, does it make sense to send them messages there as opposed to just emailing them and hoping that it doesn't go to spam?
So they're not calling, that's what they're saying?
No,
They
they're
just-
calling, but so it's like if I call Shalanda Ivy and I don't get you on the phone, well, I have a conversation with you. And I'm gonna send you an email with some information or video or whatever. Is it okay to text you and say, hey, I know I said I was gonna send you a video, take a look at this video and send them that link, or should you just be emailing? Because they're concerned about the emails going to spam and stuff like that.
Well, I would advise if you type in the YouTube, fanatical prospecting. I think that
Fanatical
person needs to
prospecting?
write, they need to read fanatical prospecting, because even though we talk about calls and emails, definitely text people. If you have their cell number, you know, but prospecting is more than just calls and emails. So, that's why people are building, that's why they're building a preference on LinkedIn. That's a professional site. That's how people are contacting some decision makers. That's social media. So fanatical prospecting is what I recommend all the time. I mean, really opened my eyes up. And we talked about emails last week. Like I said, we got a group of people that I work with are having some phenomenal success with emails, and definitely training to work on subject lines and things like that. And people are opening the emails because we're using HubSpot as a free email for email tracking. Zoho doesn't, the free version doesn't track. So for those that, if you got the free version of Zoho, it doesn't track. And there's something about sending an email and being able to see somebody, tell you that it was open. It's just a different feeling. So.
Oh, no, it's definitely a different feeling. Any kind of system that you can get into, and this is back in systems, any system that you can get into that's going to let you know that somebody opened your email, clicked on the link in the email. That's that endorphin push you need, right? You need that. It gets you excited when that happens. So you definitely want to have something like that. That's all part of your trigger system to let you know that what you're doing works. Because you always need that confirmation, because sometimes you don't close people for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. You've got to have a system set up to confirm that what you're doing is working for your business. Is that fair to everybody? Put 7 in the chat. And you need to do that because you've got to keep letting yourself know this is working. And that doesn't always come in the form of a sale. So you've got to have other triggers set up to say this is working. If you're sending out emails and you change the subject lines, like I heard John talk about, he said something about CSA scores and like whatever he said, putting these different subjects in the subject line. Do some split testing. You send some emails, check and see who opened them or whether they clicked on anything. If we getting a lot of clicks, change them subject lines and then look again and see if those subject lines got more people to open up your email. That means more eyes are on your information, which will eventually convert over to more sales. So we've got to monitor all of those things as business owners, because that's part of following up, and that's part of keeping your confidence level high enough to come back to this and do it and continue to do this. John?
Yeah, and a lot of things you can do too is set yourself up for success too. And I mean, I used to put a mirror in front of my desk that's where I can see myself talk on the phone. And I put on the text on the chat earlier, put a smile on your face when you're talking to people, because they can see your smile, when you're talking to them. And you have to, get dressed, don't show up to work in your pajamas. Okay. Put some clothes on and make the calls and just set yourself up for success and be professional. And, even if it's your home office, just treat it like a professional environment. If your desk is messy, it just creates a feeling of you're being unorganized, and that translates in your phone call sometimes. So set yourself up for success when you make those phone calls.
No, that's good. We had a conversation about that last week, John, about when you get dressed, and in the world of Zoom, we have really gotten out of that. I've been working from home. I don't even know how long it's been. I've been working from home for as long as I can remember. So I had to remember that you've got to get up and get dressed. It's too many of us sitting in front of our Zoom with pajama pants on, shorts. And I know you're throwing on this button-down shirt, but that's not getting dressed. It's a different feeling. If you get up in the morning and do whatever you do, whatever your morning routine is, whether you're a man or a woman, and then literally get dressed. Whoever people that were on with us last week, Coach Brand said, he said, I put on cologne for this Zoom, right? So, and he was being funny when he said it, but he was saying it to say, right, you got to get dressed, because getting dressed is not just about them seeing you on Zoom looking dressed. It really does make you feel more prepared.
Absolutely.
When you get yourself together and you get your coffee or your caffeine or whatever it is, you drink your water, you sit it down next to your computer, you cut it on, and you go to do a Zoom or go to work, even if you're not going to do a Zoom, you're going to just make phone calls and nobody can see you. Getting dressed and ready and prepared makes you go into that process better. It makes you go into it more confident, and it's a different feeling. All psychology, things that we're doing. So don't be a lazy business owner. And again, I don't know who sits that way in their Zoom, so I'm not talking to you specifically, but if the shoe fit, like if you got to a point where you're getting up to do business and you won't even get dressed, you're not shaving because you're making phone calls. I mean, that's like saying I'm not gonna take a shower because nobody else live here but me. Like, that's crazy. You're supposed to be doing these things for you. You're getting dressed for you, not for the client, not for the customer. You're supposed to be doing it so that your confidence boosts. So again, if you're that person, you got to keep in mind, you got to get this stuff right up in here first. You got to come to the table ready, because if you're not ready, that comes across in your voice. Like John said, we can see you smiling through the phone. I don't need your camera to be on. I know if you're in a good mood when I'm talking to you on the phone. Right? And if you need to have that collaboration with people, because that's some people's personality. If you clearly know that you do things better with an accountability partner, then find you one. Find you somebody to make calls at the same time. Find you somebody that's a workout partner that can work with you, so that y'all can, like I said, set that Zoom up, and y'all don't have to be on the Zoom, but let it be open. So the same way John can see himself making calls, I want to be able to see my business partner or accountability partner making calls on that Zoom over there. That's where it's at. And although these things may seem trivial and they may seem a psychological trick that you plan on yourself, guess what? You go talk to all the gurus in any space, whether they're in network marketing, general sales, selling cars, doing real estate, they're going to tell you the same simple stuff. Because what comes out of you when you go to make those phone calls is based on how you set yourself up before you made it. And setting yourself up is you coming to the table with the right mindset. You having the confidence, because the call is coming from the confidence. The confidence comes from, I'm ready. I got my list. I did my prospecting. I did my homework. I got my accountability partner there. That's all building confidence for yourself. That's all building confidence. So when you're in the right frame of mind, it comes across in what you do. And if you don't believe it, you go watch some of those criminal shows that come on TV.
What?
All of these criminal shows with the interrogators and investigators. How do you think they read people? They read people because no matter what's coming out of your mouth, I can really tell what's going on by your body language. A true investigator can watch you tell an entire story and know everything about it that's true or false. Why? Because of the way you're moving and the way that you're dealing. They can read the confidence or non-confidence right in what you're saying. So again, when you're over the phone and you're trying to sell somebody something that you don't believe in, they can normally tell. So it always starts with us. We got to get ourselves together and then get ourselves in a system so that we can keep our workflow when we're making these phone calls and know what we're doing. Make sense? So hopefully that helps. So I don't know whether is anything else you guys want to mention on that subject, or y'all want to.
I just bought uniforms.
Huh?
We just bought uniforms. We just bought a lot of shirts. We have our business name, or we have some of them just have our name on them. But my routine from working from home, initially when we went into COVID, yeah, man, it was like, yeah, chilling, man. And then you just lost it, right? You just lost the momentum of, because you're in your pajamas, you have to realize, no, I got to get back up, I got to get dressed and things like that. But yeah, but recently we bought what we call uniforms, but we have our our business our business shirts. We have long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, and some pullovers. So we get up and we get dressed. And I mean, I've been getting dressed, but now we have our business attire, as you might say. So you have Legal Shield stuff. You put on your Legal Shield shirt and start making dials. So it makes a difference. It really does. I get up every morning and get dressed.
So I made you the host, Sharanda, and
Oh,
I know we don't have much time left, but this is something that we can we've already touched on it anyway. So this is something that we can touch on in this little bit of 10 minutes, the three of us, because we've already mentioned some of it. It's time management. People are trying to figure out how to manage their time, and I'm gonna shoot from the hip first real quick, because I'm gonna switch my devices. So I'm gonna come off and go back on. So that's why I made you the host. But time management, guys, is, y'all already know, it's about that calendar. Time block, time box, and then do a Pomodoro. I mean, it's real simple for me when it comes to time management, right? And we don't have the time to talk about energy management. So we're not going to talk about energy management right now, but the people who are in other trainings and stuff that I do during the week, we talk big time about energy management. It's not just about managing your time. It's about knowing what activities to be doing in that specific time. So you need to understand that too. But on the more shallow topic of just time management, understand that if you do not put on your calendar the time that you need to make calls, you are probably not going to make calls. So my question to anybody who wants to know how to manage their time is real simple. Look at your calendar. Look at how much time you have outside of what you have to do. Go to work, right? Be a parent, be a caregiver, all of those things. Sleep, right? All of those things you have to do. Exercise, whatever is on your agenda. Whatever time you have to make calls, that does not need to be in your head. It needs to be on a calendar. And I always say time box, and then time block, and then Pomodoro. What does that mean? That means how much time do I want to make? How many hours of calls do I want to make during the week? If you want to make 5 hours of calls during the week, and you feel like you're going to do an hour a day and that's it, then you've already said 5 hours, right? You've boxed 5 hours mentally and on paper. After you've done that, you have to now look at your calendar and say, where are these 1 hour blocks that I'm going to put on my calendar to make these calls? And then you block your time on your calendar to make those calls. And then you run a Pomodoro technique on that, which is you set a timer when you're making those calls so that you can make sure that you start and stop when you should. That's the simple answer to time management. Put it on your calendar. If it's on your calendar, you will probably do it. If you say you're going to do it and you don't put it on your calendar, there's a huge chance that you're not. So before I turn it over, I'm going to say this. This is something I heard a long time ago. People who can't manage their time end up working for somebody who manages their time. So either you manage your own time or you're going to end up with a job and somebody else going to tell you what to do with your time. And if you don't do what they said do, then you're going to be looking for another job. That's how that works. So it starts with your calendar. So Sharanda?
What? Oh, time management? Oh, so I'm on the books, man. 12-week year. Is a good read to help you start to manage your time. But like you said, boxing and time blocking. So Dunbar, do you have a paper calendar or you do everything digital? John, do you have a paper calendar or you do everything digital?
I do every single thing. The only thing I do on paper is box the time, meaning find out how much time I need to do that particular activity. Once I write down I need 12 hours to do this thing, I immediately go to my calendar to find the 12 hours on my calendar to put it on electronically, because that, to me, electronic calendar is just, it saves more time, and then I can utilize it wherever I'm at without carrying things around.
Right, okay. Gotcha. What, and your take, John? What's your system?
Yeah, I do everything digital too, but I give myself little perks along the way too. When I achieve those time management things, like if I do a section of calls, I'll go get a cookie after that.
Ooh.
And again, I can't have that after if I don't make those calls.
Not
Or
no
if I,
cookies.
yeah, or if I sell if I was a smoker, I'd probably go out for a cigarette, but I don't
No,
do
don't
that.
do that.
But and then, or if I sell a membership, if I get someone to sign up, then it'll be a bottle of bourbon, that I can treat myself with. I just reward myself with these successes, that and that makes the job fun. That takes the dullness out of it. Like, well, I'm going to make calls today. Well, I want to have a cookie, so let me make 15 calls, okay? Or my liquor cabinet is looking a little bit low. I better go out and sell something.
Okay. So we know Dunbar, I use Google Calendar. Dunbar does too. So what calendar you use digitally?
It's Google Calendar also.
Your
Yes.
Google Calendar too?
Yes.
Okay. Do you take notes in your calendar?
No, the notes I take are on paper notes. When I have a contact, when I talk to somebody in depth, then I'll keep a paper log of that conversation, because that's what I'll use to follow up with. There's a paper log then. But the initial call blocking is on digital.
You might want to look at one of the old trainings. Dunbar taught how to take notes in your Google Calendar. That might help you since you're on the road a lot right now. Yeah. So cool. So with time management, for me, I don't, and this is just me, and this is just what I learned. I normally don't make dials. So when I get up, I'm normally in my office anywhere between between 8 and 9. I'm in my office because I do have some caregiver responsibilities, but for the most part, I try to be in my office by 8. And then, like John said, I might take a break at 9. But I try most days to be in my office by 8. I'll just say between 8 and 9. Just depends. But I don't talk to anybody unless I have a scheduled appointment and that's the time they can do it. Other than that, I don't talk to anybody normally before 10 or 10:30. That's just me. I don't want to talk to nobody. Meant that. And, a lot of times I know that my prospects normally are busy that time of the morning, whether they're trying to get their trucks moving and things like that. So instead of thinking that I got to be with the majority and, people are making dials now, I don't worry about the majority. I worry about what what I've learned over time. And so I definitely don't talk to anybody when it comes to business before 10:30. But most days, a lot of times, it's really after lunch. That's when I really start to get my dials in, I feel like I'm more productive by then. If I do make some dials, it probably start around, if I make some before noon, it'll probably be just an hour. And like I said, a lot of times, if it's before 10:30, it's definitely somebody who they just really prefer to talk to me that early. But I think I soar better in the evening. I definitely fly at night. But by that time, my body's tired because I've been up so long. But if I could really talk to some people this time of night, probably at midnight, I probably would make a lot of dials, but it's just me. But yeah, afternoon is my thing with dials and stuff.
And my day's a little bit different than that, Sharon, because I'm a 3-hour time difference from most associates that are on this call, I think. Where I'm working with an associate in Maryland, so I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, my time, making calls with her.
Mhm.
Before that, I'm actually up at like 2 or 3 in the morning when I'm doing my prospecting. That's when I go through my list of DOT numbers and sort who I want to go and visit and call on. And so I spend about 2 or 3 hours doing that in the morning. And then I work with a couple hours field training with associates long distance, and then I get on the road. I have usually about a 2-hour drive to the area that I go to, which is in the Los Angeles area, because that's where a lot of the trucking companies are that I service. And I throw a mixture in there of new companies, new calls, new contacts. I throw maintenance calls in there too of groups I already have to keep in touch with them to see if there's any drivers there I should talk to, or if they have issues I need to help them solve. And then, of course, during that drive is, that's my learning time too. That's when I have my Audible books going on in my car, when I'm trying to learn new techniques. Or you talk about fanatical prospecting. That author's got a new book out now, says Selling in a Crisis.
Okay.
Which is a good book to listen to also too, because a lot of people think we're in a crisis right now. For trucking companies, it probably is. There's a lot of trucking companies out there right now that are suffering. There is a little bit of a slowdown in the trucking industry right now with the price of diesel, and they are suffering a little bit. A lot of the smaller companies, especially, they're having trouble keeping drivers. And if any of you are looking at on the training that talked about that Bad Boy website that comes out every month, that came out last week, and they've upped the fines on trucking companies to account for inflation. And I've never seen so many fines, as far as dollar signs for that. And so that's what I'm doing while I'm driving. And then when I'm out talking to people, it's a mixture of new contacts, previous contacts, and maintenance on customers I already have. And then 2 hours driving home, it's the same thing, listening to a book on tape, and then trying to get home in time for this call.
Right. Well, yeah. So in the mornings, I'm definitely doing admin stuff. In my evenings, my calls is field training and my personal calls and working. But to talk about what you just talked about, John, those fines, a lot of y'all don't know. I actually do the correction action plans for a lot of those. So I negotiate those rates, and fines are going up, for those companies, but definitely working with the audits and things like that. So it's sad, they already paying a lot of money on the front end, but then to go through an audit and have to pay all that on the back end too. So that's a good deal that you just mentioned that. But yeah, Will said just saved another company from being closed. Went into conditional, and then we'll hope to get them back to satisfactory, but we definitely kept them open. So been doing a lot of that. But that's good stuff. So how far are you from your area? What city? So what part of LA, what part of California you're in? Northern or southern or middle?
I'm in San Diego, right along the Mexican border. And a lot of the drivers here are from Mexico, and they live in Mexico. So there's not a lot we can do with them. We can offer them a membership, but it's problematic, and they have to have a U.S. address and a method of payment. So I go to I do have groups out here, but I consider it a little bit of the armpit of the trucking business, because most of the drivers are from across the border, and they're binational drivers, and they don't speak very good English, and they're going to have problems using the attorneys if they have to use it. When I go up to Los Angeles, it's really in the Inland Empire, which is Fontana, San Bernardino, Riverside.
Okay.
There's a plethora of trucking companies up there. And I don't know, can I share my screen? Did I have the ability to share my screen?
Let me see. Who can share?
Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I'll give you an example of the research that I go through.
You shared? No?
Okay.
Can you?
Yeah, but I can't find the sheet thing I wanted to share, so I can't get there real quick. But it's like
Yeah,
it's my Excel
no,
spreadsheet.
no. Go ahead and promote their training for next month. Tell them to pay for it.
Okay, yeah, okay. Let me go,
Ah,
let me go find
so
it
we
real
had a
quick.
good training Saturday. You know, I know for those that tried to get on and couldn't get on, just FYI, when you're trying to register for trainings and you can't get on, don't wait till the day of the training and start this crying about I tried to get on, da 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 da. That's what corporate is there for. You need to email corporate the moment you try to log on and you can't. So the system this past weekend, a lot of people couldn't pay online and they were having problems, right? So when you have that problem, email corporate and they will assist you. That's what Dawn is there. That's what they're there for. But definitely don't wait till the day of the training and start texting trainers because we don't have control of the training. So make sure you know, get it in, connect with corporate, they'll help you. Because they knew that it was a problem. So, but just be business owners and take responsibilities, connect with corporate so they can help you if you truly want to get onto the training, okay?
Yeah. So this is my spreadsheet, if you can see that, and this shows the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
And I've got a list of, I'll show you down here, over 3,000 trucking companies that I've researched in this area that are, more than I can call on. That's why I was looking for people to work with. But there's a lot of people here, and the ones that are highlighted, you see the fines. Here's one for $3,000. That's the guy I want to talk to. It's only 2 drivers. It's a small company, but there's some bigger ones here. For $14,000 fine. And so that's what I do. That's a lot of the time I spend in research in the early hours of the morning, adding to this list. And I just added 500 names to this list the last 2 weeks. So it's a lot of work, but you get to pick and choose who you talk to. You just don't talk to people blindly. You talk to people that really want to hear our message. And so that's what I train on, is how to find those companies so that you don't just knock door to door, because that'll drive you crazy too. Just, trying to go down the alphabet of trucking companies. That's not the best way to do this business. The best way to do it is to seek out the people that would want to hear our message.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a skill too, because when you get those people on the phone, you got to know what to say too. I mean, so we need to be clear of that, because it's a different conversation. So we, for that individual who's dialing companies that have those fines, really you have to have a little skills with that. I mean, and I say experience. How about that? More so than skill.
Yeah, it is. We all use that Lamar Reynolds script, to the most part, and we kind of tweak it a little bit, to our own liking. But the ones that get fines,
the conversation goes a little different. So because everybody don't use a field trainer, John. So I'm real honest. So everybody doesn't use a field trainer. So and you have 3,000 there, and you get to calling, and somebody done went through them and messed them up. Then I mean, I'm saying for those individuals that call those people with fines, we want to be clear that they understand it is a different conversation. And like you say, you're working with individuals to teach them how to talk that, which is good because those people already been through that. And it's a different conversation. So, you have to know that individuals, so for the ones who are on here.
Yeah, it's the ones that have been fined, but also the ones you say, my goodness, why haven't you been fined yet? You should be fined by now.
Right. Or you're going to be in an audit in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble. Or the ones that are in really good shape, you say, well, that's another conversation. Let's put something in place that'll keep it that way, because you don't want to ever get yourself in a position you want to be audited.
Yeah.
So there's many different conversations you have with that. Yes. Okay.
I'm telling Clark about what you're training to. So good stuff. Dunbar, you there? You want to jump in? But John is training next month, so if you guys want to, he'll definitely talk about the research, where he's getting the research as well. He'll go into some depth on that as well. So, yeah. So the next, but he's did it on the annual trainings too. So you gotta just tap back into those annual trainings, because John brought that to the annual trainings. And actually, I think, John, you go deeper on that third annual training than you do actually on the certification training. What you think?
Yeah, Ellen doesn't want me to dig too much into the
Right,
certification training, because there's a lot of new associates on there. We'll just get their head spinning
right.
with it. But yeah, the third annual training, and I've got even more things I've added to it since the last time. That makes the process a little bit easier too. There's always a learning process with this, and it's never the same. There's always new tips and tricks that even I'm learning at this point to maximize my effort. I want to make sure that if I want to be doing the work, I want to make sure that I'm it's good work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good stuff.
No, Sharon, the only thing I would mention is what you said, just kind of backing up what you said about you doing administrative stuff in the morning. That was what I was talking about when I was leading into energy management. We need to understand when it's the best time to do the things that we need to do. And sometimes we're being told that we're supposed to wake up and start making dials, while we still trying to trip over our conscience. And that's not always true. Some people can make calls first thing in the morning effectively because that is who they are. But some people have to get into the groove of their day and they start doing some admin work, and then 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning, now they're starting to make dials and they can make effective dials. And I always give the example of myself. I don't like to send emails in the morning because it's not a good time for me to put together good emails. I'm not in my headspace to do that. So I'll write my emails at night. I'll write really good emails after 7 p.m. I'll write them and then I schedule them to go out the next morning. Because I don't write good emails at 6 o'clock in the morning. My mind is not on that. I can do admin stuff in the morning. I can run errands in the morning, right? All of that kind of stuff I can do. I cannot make phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I cannot write emails at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But I do still need to be running my business, so I make sure I do those admin things I need, and then I still have that. That's why it's important to block time. So you can say, if I'm going to make 90 minutes of calls a day, as long as you have it blocked on your calendar to do it, it doesn't matter whether you do it at 8 or 10 o'clock, as long as you do the 90 minutes of calls, but do it when you can be more effective as a caller. Not based on some narrative that somebody else created that does sales that says you should make phone calls first thing when you wake up. That's not everybody's, what I like to say, but it's not what I call it, but it's what it is. That's not everybody's chronotype. Everybody's chronotype is not make phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's chronotype is not work out at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't work out that early in the morning, but I work out consistently. So it depends on your body, your mind, and how you best do it. So you got to test some different times. And if you know that the time that you make calls during the Legal Shield Blitz at 11 o'clock Eastern, if you're saying I make really good calls during the Blitz, maybe you should be using that same time frame on other days of the week, because that might be a good time frame for you to make calls. So you have to look at all those things. Don't just get up and make calls unless it's what your body wants to do and you know you can do it effectively. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. It's 9:42.
Awesome. Well, I'm done with my portion. John, you want to add anything?
No, I'm just glad I could get back on the call again and like seeing people again on the call. It's good to see you all again.
Good stuff. John is training. What do you have a date? He didn't say a date. Saturday. You know the date for next month?
Yeah, let me get the date. It's I think it's the 18th. It's a Saturday, right? So it should be the 18th.
He didn't say. He did announce that you were the trainer for next month, but he didn't. I don't remember a day he said, but just follow the calendar. Like I said, And John does a great job on, you know, training on that. Like I say, if you really want to learn it more, I think you should just tap into the 3rd annual training. He's not going to go that in depth on the training, but he is going to talk about it, and he'll talk about his new stuff on the training. But he do a very good, thorough training on the 3rd annual about that. But he has some new stuff, so you definitely want to get on so you can, you know, hear that. And, you know, for those that are not working with a trainer, you need to work with someone so you can get started. You know, I mean, it doesn't, you want to work with somebody who's, you know, focused on CDL, who's, you know, can have that conversation, who's producing, and can help you with that and help you close your deals. So, you know, so just reach out so you can get started, you know, so you can learn how to get it going and then tap back in. So I hope that helps everyone. And so with that, Dunbar, you done? We can close it out?
Yeah, I think it's gone, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
So y'all have a good, definitely have a good night, and thank you, Dunbar. Appreciate you, John. And
Absolutely, absolutely.
have a good night, everyone.
Everybody have a good night.
Take care,
Good
team.
night.
Thank you, coaches. Thank you.